Okay, I think we should be good now. We should be good to go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Her Fulfillment Podcast, where we fully feel our emotions while fulfilling what's meant for us. Got it right, y'all. I am your host, Kennedy, and today this episode is going to be about emotions. Okay. This series will be called Fully Feeling Our Emotions. Yeah. Fully Feeling Our Emotions series. So, as an overview, we're basically just going to break down all of the emotions and just fully feel them. I mean, like, it's kind of self-explanatory, but I know I need to kind of explain it a little bit. But no, we're seriously just going to fully feel each of those feelings, break them down, see how they affect us, how they affect our relationship with God, and just seeing the root of where those emotions are coming from. And then finally, we're just going to find healthy ways to express them. Okay, so it's a heal girl era. Okay, we're really healing around here. So yeah, if you're looking to go ahead and tap into your emotions, stick around for this series. It's gonna be pretty fun, but also it's gonna be a little emotional. Yeah, just want to start off by giving an overview of that. I do want to touch on some emotions today. If we have time, we're gonna see, but I'm hoping that we do. So let's just jump right into it, okay? Gotta also bring out my little book. This is episode 2, but I've filmed multiple episodes, y'all. So also have to remember that I'm cutting a lot of those episodes I've done. So just bear with me with this because this is a long time coming, okay? So just bear with me. Yeah. Let's just get into it, okay? So we're going to list the primary emotions just to begin with that. And then we're going to touch on the different parts of them, like the secondary emotions, all of those different things. The primary emotions are anger, sadness, fear, joy, interest, surprise, disgust, and finally, shame. Those are the emotions that we are born with and that are wired into us. Those are what everybody pretty much has, like, I mean, we obviously we experience these emotions at different times and through different ways, but all of us have them, okay? Now, to understand our feelings, it's the Atlanta accent coming out. Sorry, y'all. Country accent, girl. Country accent. But to understand our feelings, we must dive into our emotions. Emotions start as sensations. Feelings are generated from our thoughts about them. So I wanted to break it down and give you some deeper knowledge just so that we can all be on the same page. I don't want to start this series off and then I'm talking about anger and you're telling me, oh, or you're thinking, oh, me expressing anger is by being passive aggressive. I mean, obviously that's how you express it, but anger is anger. It's not aggressiveness or passive aggressiveness. It's just all of that is tied into anger. So I want to go ahead and break everything down. If that makes sense. So we can all be on the same page, girl. Yeah, so feelings are conscious, but emotions can be conscious or unconscious. So I'm gonna touch back on that in a little bit, but I just want to go ahead and get all of this out so that we can know. Like I said, emotions are what we are born with, and then we can also have secondary emotions or emotions that stem from the primary emotions. Any other emotion is learned. Any other thing is just not even, that's just learned, okay? So, with that being said, emotions are just in us, and I feel like society has made it okay to touch on certain ones based off of gender roles, based off of environmental factors, based off of class. Sometimes it's easier to base our emotions when you have a little bit more stature than somebody else, right? So we just want to make sure that we're touching on all of the emotions that are primary first, and then we're gonna dive into those secondary emotions as they see fit to our situations. But we definitely need to discuss what we are born with. We're all born with those first few emotions. The reason why I also wanted to go ahead and touch on emotions is because they're behind feelings. And as you know, this is the Her Fulfillment podcast, so fully feeling those feelings, right? Feelings are different from emotions. And emotions are, like I said, what we are born with, but feelings are how we respond to them, how we interpret them, right? So we gotta know our emotions and get into them before we even get into our feelings, because the feelings are definitely going to be way more personal and way more subjective, right? Cool. Now that we're on that same page, let's just break them down a little bit. So I feel like y'all gotta bear with me with this mic today. I don't know, honey. I'm trying to keep her up. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna have to move this up. Oh my goodness. Whew. Now we got all these different colors on. Okay. We are back, y'all. I'm gonna try not to touch this mic situation. I don't know what's going on today. There we go. I don't know what's going on, but had to fix the mic. The enemy do not want to see us win, y'all. So anyway, back into it. So with different emotions, so I'm gonna start with anger. Now, anger is anger. Anger is anger. I don't want to touch too much in them. I mean, I feel like with each episode, it's going to be a time to be able to discuss these different emotions, but I do want to touch on anger because I feel like God definitely called me to talk about anger today. So we're gonna just discuss anger. So anger. Oh my goodness, like I don't know, I really am not prepared for this. This is not Podcasts are not meant to really, you're not really meant to prepare, I feel like, compared to a YouTube video, but I just feel like, I don't know, y'all bear with me. I just need to get my emotions out. Like, as you could tell, I'm not the one to be talking about emotions, but the Lord want me to talk about emotions today. Okay, Lord, speak through me, Lord, speak through me. Whew. So anger is just something that is looked at in society as an uncontrollable, violent, aggressive emotion. And I feel like people don't understand it, right? They don't understand why we have anger. What it like we know what anger is, obviously, but like where does it come from, right? And I think it does stem from the different emotions. I feel like it does stem from sadness. I feel like it stems from shame. It can stem from a lot of different things, but anger is inherently something that as humans we're going to go through, but we go through it pretty often because of our feelings. Our feelings get hurt and we express it through anger. And I want to bring someone from the Bible into this to just give us a character explanation as to what anger can do in the kingdom of God. So I'm just going to touch on Moses because see, when I did these episodes, I watched this show called The Chosen. I don't know if y'all are familiar with The Chosen. Really, really good show. I'm still watching it. Y'all should go check it out if you haven't. But I was watching it, or I'm sorry, it was not The Chosen. It was before The Chosen. I was watching The Testament. The Testament was the book it wasn't a book of Moses, but it was about Moses, and pretty much it just got into the philosophy behind Moses's characteristics and his actions throughout the Bible, and how it was interpreted with other religions. Like you had like the Jews on there, you had the Christians, of course. You had I think it was like Judaism, or it was different religions on there for sure, and they just interpreted what it meant in each of their religions. So I thought that was very cool. But anyway, let's get back into Moses because Moses definitely had the character trait of aggression and anger a lot in his time and his stories throughout the Bible, right? When you break down Moses' character, he was very doubtful of himself, right? So he didn't know why God chose him. He didn't understand why God chose him. And he was just so shameful and humiliated by what happened back in where he grew up at, right? So his anger stemmed from his shame. And I know it's going to be kind of hard to break down each episode with these different emotions. So bear with me. But with anger usually comes a sense of, like I said, shame, disappointment. It really stems from a lot of these different emotions. And anger is usually expressed through just aggression, right? So back to Moses. So as we know, he murdered someone, and he ran away, and he started a new life, and God chose him to go back to his hometown to make things right. Yeah, he went back to Egypt, and he became an honest man through God, and he was leading the Israelites away from slavery and to where God had called him to go. Now, the thing about Moses is that his anger led him down to the path that he went, and God knew he needed to control his anger. He needed to understand his anger. He needed to feel his anger, right? Because it started with the murder. He was angry about how that Egyptian was treating the Israelites, and he killed him, right? So that's where the whole path started, from anger. So once again, I don't think anger should be looked at as something that is just so negative and such a thing you should not want to deal with and not want to live in. You should just want to understand it, right? Because we're going to feel anger and we're going to continue to get through it and get out of it, right? So it led him through his path to where he was leading a whole nation out of slavery. Do you know how much that takes? And not only did he have his anger that he had to control, but he had the Pharaoh who had control issues. Now, that's something completely different. That's completely different from the emotion, but he had to control himself, right? Control the nation. So imagine just already having an anger come out about the things you did and shame about what you did, right? And then having to go back and go back and take away all of those emotions that you have deep down and put those to the side to go ahead and lead a nation out in humility. You did this in humility, right? But the thing about Moses is that he didn't confront his emotions until down the line. He stood in there, and every time Pharaoh, or every time the Israelites did something, against God, or just did something that he felt like wasn't what they should be doing, his anger came out. And eventually it got him to the point where he was not able to go to the promised land that God promised for the Israelites due to his anger. He was so angry at how the Israelites were such in that slavery mindset that he did a act of anger, and God was like, okay, this is it. So we just want to be conscious and cautious of our anger, because it's okay to be angry. It's okay to not understand why you're angry, or understand how to not be angry, right? But we have to work through those emotions, because our feelings are what are driven past these emotions. So we can be angry, but when we express these feelings and start to do other things, that's where the issues lie. So, and usually our feelings are hurt and we, again, our emotions come up and our feelings are hurt. So then that in turn leads to actions, but we just have to be mindful. So I want to kind of just give a story about something that happened to me earlier last week. God wanted me to touch on it and talk about it. I didn't really want to, but I'm going to just do it because, of course, I'm trying to be obedient and I'm trying to just follow God's lead. So we're going to talk about my struggles, not little, but my struggles that I had, right? So I had car issues last week, and through my walk with Christ, I'm a baby Christian, by the way, and you'll hear me say baby Christian a lot, but I've been having issues with my anger. And y'all, I don't want to say I'm not an angry person. I don't want to say I don't have anger, I don't express anger, but I feel like it's coming out more than usual. And I feel like Moses. When Moses was upset because he was gone and he was working with God to go ahead and get these laws printed out, or not printed out, obviously not printed out, but he was getting these laws together, and the Israelites were just living in that mindset. What would you do if you are put to the task of doing something and the people that you are trying to help are not doing what they're supposed to do? They're not doing their part, right? All of us would feel some sort of anger, right? So I really felt him when I was having those car issues, because I didn't understand. I'm like, I knew I had a little bit of car issues that I needed to deal with, but this specific issue was my alternator. And I know we probably don't know much about cars. I mean, I don't know. So all I'm gonna say is I had my check engine light come on, but it was for minor issues. And then I'm just thinking, I'm just cruising, and my light kept popping on, and it'll pop off, and it'll pop on, and it'll pop off, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna keep on riding, not worried about it, not even thinking about it, because honestly, it's not that I could not even get the car fixed. I have the money to get it fixed. It's not that I just didn't understand what needed to be fixed either. I mean, I knew I needed to go get a diagnostics, but I knew everything I needed to do. I just didn't do it. And I wasn't being obedient, and I wasn't appreciating what I had. And God had to take that away from me in a split second for me to understand that. So let's get back into what happened over the week. So I just randomly, my battery light came on, and it was just like all the lights started flickering. It was crazy, y'all. I wasn't panicking because I knew I had God on my side, but I was just confused. I'm like, what is this? Like, why is this even doing this? So I went to the store, the AutoZone or something, Advanced Auto Parts, one of them, and I had them test it, and they're like, yeah, your battery's dead. I'm like, what? And I just changed my battery. So I'm like, what? And they were like, yeah, your battery's dead. And I just knew something was wrong with how I was driving. So this guy came, and he was like, I can tell he had like a construction outfit, and he was really dirty. And I could tell like he was coming from somewhere else. And he just came and stopped, and he was like trying to talk to me. And I'm like, I'm really like, just like, I'm not even angry. I was probably confused. I don't know. I was just inconvenienced. You know, when you're inconvenienced and you just have a different emotions, you're just inconvenienced. So, right. So I'm just like sitting there, and he's like, what's wrong with your car? And trying to help me. So he tested the battery with his battery too. And he also tested my alternator. And he told me along the lines of like, oh yeah, your battery, pretty much you'll be fine. I need to do a smoke test, because I brought up the codes. I thought it was related to the other problem, and I was like, yeah, I had codes coming on. I knew my codes in my mind, because like I said, I dealt with these issues. I just, out of sight, out of mind, right? So I'm like, okay, these were probably related to this, and he was like, oh yeah, we'll need to do a smoke test on your car to see everything. I'm like, all right. But can my car make it? Because like I was going somewhere and I was like, I was just going up to the store, but I was like, I need to make it back home. And he was like, yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And then I looked in the back of my mirror and I saw it was a church behind me. So I was like, okay, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And I prayed the whole time on the way there and on the way back home. And I'm just like, God, please protect over me. Cause I don't know what's going on with this car, y'all. I don't know what's going on at this point. So he was like, yeah, you should be fine. And he was like, oh, I can look for you, but I have to work, so it'll have to be like a week or two. And I'm just looking at him like, dude, now I know I can make it back home, but a week or two, that's just too much. So I'm like, but he was just so sweet, and I felt safe, and I felt like he was given from God. And I don't think he was very knowledgeable as far as my car. I mean, I don't know, but he was just very sweet. And then I just remember at the end of the conversation, he was just like, God bless you. And I was like, wow. I don't hear God bless you a lot anymore. People don't say that. People don't really say God bless you. So I was very shocked for him to say that at first. And I'm just like, God bless you. And I just prayed on my way home. But I was just like I was just such in a mood. And I was like, oh my goodness. So fast forward, I was still able to drive that car, but I was just kind of a little worried. And then as I was driving, it started to I could just feel it. It just wasn't, I couldn't even move my steering wheel. It was locking while I was driving. Oh my goodness. It was just I still wasn't scared though, y'all. Like I was not worried. I was just confused. So God got me home, and then that's when my battery just gave out completely. It was not working. Oh, and also at the place they told me that the alternator was like, they told me that the battery wasn't charging. It probably was my alternator or something was with the alternator. They did tell me that. I forgot to mention that, but my battery wasn't charging while it was driving, and that's how it usually is. That's what the guy told me, and the guy that was helping me, he was just trying to reassure me it wasn't nothing big. So. Yeah. So anyway, I say all that to say that I just went to work. I took an Uber to work, and I had to tow my car to one of like the auto shops. Horrible. I would never go back there, but I would never go back there. But I took it to the place where I originally took it, where they told me that, oh, you need to get this done for the first problem. The second problem, they did it, and they charged me so much money, y'all. Like, I spent so much money with that one issue. And one of my family members helped me out with that a lot. And I am so thankful. I'm so appreciative. But they helped me. But I was also, y'all, I was also fasting during that time. So I knew during that time I was supposed to fast. So I was fasting during that day where I was just drinking water. I didn't have nothing to eat. So I had so many emotions during that time. Like I was just so stressed, but at the same time I wasn't. It was so weird. So, I got to the shop, and they charged me a bunch of money. They tried to charge me for a new battery, but I knew I had a warranty on my battery, and it was just a very complicated thing. I'm breaking down this story for a reason. So I'm sorry if it just sounds very boring, because it wasn't boring for me, child, when it was happening. So, but yeah, so I knew that they were just overcharging me, but I had no choice, because I'm just trying to make it to work. I was working. I'm busy at work. I was trying to do a bunch of stuff. So I'm like, oh my goodness. So pay to get it out. And then when they called me and were like, yeah, we're done. So come here by 5:30. So I didn't have a ride there. So I had to ask my coworker. We drove there at 5:00, got there. They didn't even have one of the belts for what they were supposed to be replacing it for. And they had to go. I saw when they came back, they had a whole AutoZone bag. Like, y'all literally scammed me, but whatever. So they came back, and I had to sit there until about 6:20. And I remember I was trying to make sure my battery was okay. So I had to make it at Sam's Club by 7. And I was just so upset. That's the point when I was upset. And during my fast, I was just praying to God. And I gave it to him. I wasn't even worried. My car like stopped working on Saturday. On the whole Sunday, I was not worried. I gave it to God. I was a little bit, not at myself, but I was giving it to God, y'all. When I got to that shop, that was when I was being tested, and I know I was being tested, and my emotions really got a hold of me, because when I told him, I said, you called me while I was at work at 4:45 and saying, hey man, like almost like come get your car. Like they were over it because my family was calling and handling stuff. I was calling them. Like they were really over me, I think. And when I got there, they didn't have it fixed. When I got there, they were charging me like for almost what they were, more than what they were supposed to be charging me. It was crazy, and I was just so hot. I was so frustrated. I was kind of embarrassed because my coworker was there. It was just so much. It was so many emotions there. But I remember just being angry, and my coworker was trying to calm me down. He was like, it's okay. Like, they overcharge you a lot, but you know what you know now. And I knew that, y'all, when I tell you everything that was happening, I knew it. I knew God had me. I knew I was protected. I knew I had the money to pay for it. I knew all of these things. I was just angry at the fact that all of that played out, and I still had to wait. And I was just thinking to myself, like, what if this was God? Would I be mad if this was God that was fixing my car? Like, yeah, I'm being overcharged. Yeah, all these different things are happening. Yeah, they don't have the part. They put the wrong part and had to find another part and all these different things, but at least I still have a car, right? And I'm just thinking, what would Jesus do? Like, why am I sitting over here mad at this man? But at that time, I could not understand why, because I just felt played with. Y'all know when y'all feel played with, which is back to embarrassed or back to the shame. Y'all, I was so irritated with the fact that, like, I just felt played. I felt like I was a woman. Y'all are taking advantage of me. Y'all tried to sell me something I didn't need, which is a new battery, all these different things. So God just spoke with me, and he gave me so much wisdom and so much discernment, and just told me I was being tested, and I knew some of it had to do with not appreciating my car. I had this car for almost 5 years, and wow, 5 years. I've had this car for 5 years, and I never wanted a car from the jump. It was an unfortunate situation, but I ended up getting stuck with this car, and I just did not want it. And I just felt like that was always something I was being tested by, because I always knew I was sacrificing getting a new car or getting the car of my dreams, or car I wanted, because I was comfortable with this car, and it was reliable. It made me money on Turo. It was me and this car has been through it, but I felt like God was testing me, like, look, you are not even appreciative of what you have right now. When it's time for me to bless you, when it's time for me to give you new things, are you going to respond like this? Are you going to respond with anger? Are you going to let external factors affect you internally? And that was real, because I really felt like I was getting through it. Like, y'all, I hadn't been ate all day. I've been praying and fasting all day, and then from the point where I'm right at the point where I'm getting ready to get out of the situation I'm at, I'm upset. And I'm just like, why, right? So I really had to feel that, though. I had to feel it. And even though my coworkers told me, I had to feel it, because I knew I was changing, but I'm like, I don't want to go back to my old ways where I'm cussing people out and I'm just like causing a scene. I did not want to do that. I don't want to do that. That's not me. So I'm like, so back to the anger. It's just, that's how Moses reacted. Moses was just so upset about how people, were treating the situation of him being gone, and they just started to praise his brother and do all like types of rituals and all types of stuff. And they're like, what? He's like, I did not go and do and sacrifice my life for y'all to be doing this. And it's understandable. I think we've all had a Moses moment, but we also know that there are repercussions to our actions. And I felt like God tested me, but he gave me favor. He knew what I was going through as far as everything. And he knew, I'm in the city, I don't have no help. He knew I had frustrations there too. So, and I feel like God gave Moses that favor too. A lot of times, especially when he murdered that guy, he didn't have the repercussions other than him escaping. Like, you know what I mean? So I just had to accept the fact that, okay, this has got to be one of the last times I'm getting angry at a situation that God is giving me favor in, that God is showing up for me in. And I got to just express that in a different way. I can feel that anger. I can be angry, but I cannot show it through that. I can't sit here and argue with people and embarrass myself like that. I can't do that. I have to show it in different ways. I have to pray for people. I have to show grace. Everybody makes mistakes. They made a mistake. He said he made a mistake. But that wasn't enough for me. I didn't feel like you could make a mistake. I wasn't thinking about you being human. I'm thinking about me being a customer. I'm thinking about me. And yeah, I really had to sit with myself and understand that anger is something we feel constantly, but we do not need to express it in ways that are going to affect other people or ways that are really going to affect us. We have to sit with this and talk with God and be like, hey, God, please take this anger away from me. Why am I feeling like this? How can I improve this? And when I sat there and did that with y'all, when I tell y'all the rest of my week was smooth, that's how I knew I was tested. It was smooth, y'all. God knows us more than we know ourselves. And he knows that whatever he gives us, we can handle. We just got to know that. We just got to understand that. We just have to be able to feel what we feel, but we have to keep going. We have to keep going towards the direction of where God is heading for us to go. You know what I mean? We can't be stuck on our old actions just based off of the fact that we're used to them. We're comfortable expressing them the way we express them. So with that being said, I want to go back to when we was talking about Moses a little bit. When you're reading that, you're like, when you're reading certain things in the Bible, and you're like, how did this person end up in this situation, or why did they react the way they did? But it's like, when you're in that situation, you get it. It's easier to understand other people's, but when it happens to us, we're like, it doesn't correlate. You're like, what? That just doesn't make sense, right? I also want to mention that during that car situation, I had doubt and confusion. And that is something that the enemy sends to you during these things. And I did not understand if that car situation happened because of God or because of the enemy sending an attack. But when I asked for discernment, God blessed me with discernment. He showed me exactly why it happened. He told me why it happened. And he told me it was a test. So I just want to make that clear, y'all. Sometimes we can't decipher where is this stemming from. Like, when unfortunate things happen, we have to confide in God and ask him, why is this happening? Like, why? And if you can't tell me, God, if you can't show me right now, just have it in my heart to have a good reaction, a good conscience, a good heart posture behind whatever it is that this test or this situation is happening for, you know what I mean? So I want to just make that clear, that I definitely did have some doubt and I had some confusion, but I just stayed strong. I had like those little mental breaks where I'd be like, like, is this supposed to be this? Is this? And never did I ever question if God was real. I just did not know if he was with me, if he was following me, if he was following me, if he was with me. That's it. And then God pointed out this verse to me at the time. It's 2 Corinthians 6. And it says, in the time of my favor, I heard you. And in the day of salvation, I helped you. And when I was telling y'all, I was talking to God and I was letting him know, I was like, God, sorry, y'all, my nose is running a little bit. But yeah, when I was talking to God, I'm like, God, you got to talk to me, Lord. Like, what's happening? Why is this happening? We was just good yesterday. We were just good. What happened? So you got to talk with God and have that relationship with him and not just depend on these outsourced middlemen when it comes to having that relationship with God. You really have to speak to him. You have to let him speak through you. You gotta sit with him. You gotta have quiet time. Oh my goodness, that's so important, God. I learned this week that God was pointing out that I listen to so much of his word. I listen to a bunch of, like, all day, every day. I'm listening to the words of God, but I'm not giving him that quiet time. I'm wondering why he's not speaking to me. And he's like, girl, you can't let it be quieter for longer than 2 minutes, whether it's TV or whether it's the phone or whether it's talking to people. It's always something. Like, you have to have quiet time with God for him to be able to talk back with you, right? So I usually just try to make some time where I'm just being quiet and listening, and make sure everything is off and I can hear him clearly. So that's important. But yeah, the Corinthians verse definitely helped me understand. That is when he told me, I helped you. I helped you in more ways than you know. Not only did I help you, because your car, I could have never showed you this, and you would have kept going on in that car, and it could have messed up the whole engine. Who knows? Lord forbid, but who knows? You know what I mean? I helped you. I helped you understand and take better care of your car, better care of yourself, and better care with your relationship with me, your test. You know what I mean? And just understand that it's a reason behind everything that's happening. So I think with anger, I definitely feel like anger has a lot of confusion and doubt centered around it, which is why we don't want to feel it. But we gotta let it go, because most of the time it's gonna bring it back down. It's gonna bring it back down to the root, and the root is in the internal shame and internal, just something is not right there. Something is not right in your heart, and you gotta just ask God to fix that heart posture. Not ask God. I said, please make my heart soft, y'all. Lord, please make my heart soft, because I knew it wasn't as soft as it could be. So, with that being said, I'm gonna kind of wrap it up at anger, and hopefully this really inspired you guys to connect with your emotions and connect with the emotion of anger. Let me know what you guys think on my social medias or in the comments. Let me know how you feel about anger. How do you express anger? Like, what does anger mean to you? And just how you connect with God with your anger. What do you tell him about your anger and how to help with that anger? Let me know in the comments or on my social media. And I thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys. And most importantly, God loves you guys. And I will see y'all in my next episode. Take care.